Good evening, folks. Welcome to the session from the Wise Asylum. What a week! There's a lot going on. Isis in the house. Can't call him Laurence of Rochdale anymore. He's now Laurence of Rochdale. George Galloway. What a shill is that? And he's fooling everybody. So we'll have a little look at that and I'll remind you of what I know about that Crown agent. Also, what in the world's going on with the frauds? The fraudulent royals, by golly. They've all run off. Can't make any sense of it, really. It's pretty difficult, but it looks like they're having some serious trouble. Or are they? I don't know. You never know with them, folks. It's all theatre. They're experts at it. They do nothing without reason. Everything has meaning, and it's all ritual. So, we'll have a little gander at that as well. So, also, there is something very interesting going on with these royals as well that seems to be hidden. You don't see it anywhere. Nobody seems to be talking about it. And I'm wondering if that's what it's all about. So, we'll have a little look at that as well. That might just pique your fancy there. But first, we'll have just update on this magic cabbage situation, of course. I'm still off it. I'm now past the 4-week mark, into the 5th week, and I can say the mist has gone. And what a jolly groove that is as well. Everything I focus to now, just so easy. No chatter, just flows. Anything I'm dealing with, it's just everything's there. It's there. It fixes. I don't forget things. I'm not having to backtrack. So I will say, without a doubt, it's been a good move, a very, very good move, and unlike usual, it's where I always tend to miss it is I like the taste when I'm having a cigarette, and that hasn't shown itself at all. So in that sense, again, it's like all the green lights are go for me to stick to this, and I'm going to stick to it as well because I think now we're getting into last year. On the Land Act, things have to be moved. If you're going to do the reversion, this is the only year you've got to stand a chance. I have to say, I've been dealing with all week. We're dealing with a funeral. That's an interesting gig in and of itself. A company called Golden Charter. If any of you out there have got a policy with those for your funeral, be prepared for not to be paid the full amount. So, I looked into this. We had a bit of a to-do with them. They mucked about. They didn't want to really send us the terms and conditions. They did send us the terms and conditions. Couldn't read them. I don't know whether that was deliberate or not. So I just got in contact straight away with the CEO. But when I found out there's a company and a trust. So I just went to the CEO of the trust. Very pleasant guy, which he will be. And pretty much realised that Scottish, by the way. Why is all this, so much of this blag corporate nonsense being administered by Scottish people? There's something in that. And people forget also, the troubles in Northern Ireland was because of a shitload of Scottish Protestants being moved into Northern Ireland. Yet England gets the blame. James I, another Scottish person, set up the Virginia Company, what became the East India Company after the Levant Company. People forget this. England gets the blame for everything when in fact we've been under the Scottish mantle since the Civil War. Well, before the Civil War with James. So we need to keep this in mind. I think we forget this. They'd like us to forget it, of course. And of course, Fat Fingers the Fraud has oathed to the upholding of the Scottish Church. No mention of England. And if we've time, we might go through a few points on the Land Act that you're going to need if you're going to move this year, of course, to do the reversion. Now, of course, that's my main thesis I'm playing with at the moment, and hopefully as we get further into the year, I'm going to be able to offer up what needs to be done for those that want it, those that are ready to really learn what they need to learn, and we'll see what we can do in inviting those kind of minds into this mix, and we can sort that out. So, like I said, last year you need a clear mind, you've got to be right on the ball. I'm dealing with council tax at the moment who have tried to move to bankruptcy through an high-powered solicitors. We've thrown them off. On the first initial, it was High Court, crossed out, then Burnley Magistrates Court. I sent in a conditional acceptance to the solicitors, didn't really give much of the game away. They've come back. Now, the magistrates are not involved. They don't want nothing to do with the paperwork because they obviously know that I'm doing it. And now the solicitors are all on their own and they want payment to them. So everything's coming together quite well as I put into practice what I've learnt. Again, also, which I didn't manage to get back to last week, which was an interesting game with the registrars. Again, relating to this funeral that we dealt with last week. So back to the funeral, what we actually did was bypass the companies and went straight to the insurance, which was Sun Life. Put the details in there, they released the cash. Now, but be very careful with these funeral plans, people, because when you get your statement and you've got a figure in that statement, Golden Charter we're talking about specifically here, they wanted to pay like £1,200 less than was on the statement. You wouldn't pay the policyholders next of kin. They wanted to deal directly with the funeral, of course. Funeral directors, because of course they want to keep that hidden from you. So these are things you need to really keep in mind, folks. If you sort of sat back thinking all is well and everything's going to be sorted out when you pop. Because of course when you pop, we can pop off quite easily, but the family that's left have to jump through hoops upon hoops upon hoops just in order to get you on the fire or in the ground, whichever is the choice of the one that's popped his clogs. Again, I will say, there's only one funeral directors in this area that I would promote, and that would be El Champs. Everything else I've dealt with in the past is shit. Shit. Just shit. They don't care. They're not really in the game. They're not looking after the game. They just want the money and off they go. I have to say, with this company, that's not the case at all. They genuinely care, and you can see that in everything they do. So, funerals, you've got to be careful, folks. Be very careful where you take out these policies. And I suppose if you can take it out to Insurance Direct, is probably your better option than contracting with these, let's say, shyster operations. So that's that out of the way. Now this registrar, I'll just give you a bit of a run through what I actually did, because initially I'd suggested that we try and take the estate right from the get-go, but of course when you start to get into these funerals, the whole gig is dependent on the death certificate. So unless you're prepared to have your recently departed staying in the fridge in the hospital for God knows how long, you may want to consider the path that I chose, which was to basically got in there, asked the name of the registrar that was there. Then I went and then I began and said, look, I understand that what's going on here now is that you are going to insist that my colleague here deposits the estate back into the hands of the Crown. Now, what I got from there was, from the registrar, now this one was called Carol Walmsley. No, that was the second one. Sorry, she was called Sharon Challenger, the first registrar. And as I started to ask these questions, she's on the computer saying, help, get somebody in here. You blue tongue, the bit of the old methylene blue, so my apologies. I'm not an alien, and I haven't shapeshifted. It's just methylene blue. So Sharon Challenger was the first registrar. Shit her pants when I said to her, I know that you're going to insist that my colleague here deposits the estate back into the Crown. She said, oh, I don't understand. Okay, that's what she said. Shouting, white as a ghost. Called in this young Flossie. Then I asked another question. I said, are you legally trained? In came a higher level registrar. Sat down and I began it again. I explained that now I wanted her to witness also. She was called... she was a registrar and deputy service manager called Carol Walmsley. I actually knew her face. I don't know where I know it from, but I've seen her around. Whether it's in the courts or not, I don't know. She went white, pink, purple, and froze. And of course, I reiterated what I'd said. Again, it's, oh, I don't understand. But when I said, are you legally trained? They both said no. So lies all over the shop. But of course, we go back to the National Securities Act, don't they, of 2023. We're in there. If they start telling us the crack, they risk going to prison for life or 14 years, depending on the charge, as it were. So you could see that in play there. So basically what I said was, we're going to do this thingy, but I want it to be known, witnessed by all here today, that you have blocked any other avenue available to my colleague in relation to settling the estate of her father. Okay, so that's what we did, and I asked for the main registrar, which was Joanne Miller. She was the chief registrar, and this is Blackburn we're talking about here. So just keep that in mind, guys, because I've been people are dropping like flies, and of course you really want to be holding on to the estate. Now the secondary thing you need to do on the back of that, because what you've actually done in doing that, you've played the game so that your beloved can be, burnt, set on fire, set on Viking boat, whatever you're doing, bonfire in yard, whatever you want to do. That then shows clearly that they've committed a fraud by making sure there's only one avenue available to the next of kin. So you've created that opening already, but then you want to get in contact with the HMRC and prevent that estate going into probate, and you want the next of kin, of course, or power of attorney, to be the executor. Okay, so that's the two-part gig in relation to what you need to be doing and thinking about if your beloved pops its clogs. So that just finishes that up, which I didn't talk about last week. So I hope that's interesting for you, and you can go back to that if you need to, and just jot down some notes about that so you've got it ready at hand if and when you have to start to do these things. So that's that. The gig with the council tax. So they're moving. They wanted to bankrupt. Now, of course, if you owe over £5,000, I believe that a creditor. Now, this is what's important in this little gig as I look through this. The solicitors in question, which are Kerrs of Wigan, claimed that the council are a creditor. Are the council a creditor? Because only a creditor can make a statutory demand for you to put forward your finances in order they can determine whether they want to bust you or not. Now, in my opinion, a council isn't a creditor, is it? Because it's nothing owing, because they're demanding the menace an unlawful charge against your trust for council tax. So that's one of the first things that got me a little bit excited. You know? Now, I can't talk too much about it, obviously, because we're into another phase of it. But suffice to say, the conditional acceptance that I put in has changed a lot from their initial gig. And what I'm going to do next should move it forward even further. So now, if we have success with this, again, for those worthy, I may invite you to try this out yourself. Now, probably what I will do is I will prep the paperwork and present it for you. Only because it could tie you up in knots if you don't fully understand it. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that's ongoing at the moment as well. So interesting stuff going on. And again, as I've said, getting myself off that magic cabbage has just removed that mist and made it so much easier for me to focus to all this data that I've been collecting for God knows how long. You know what I'm saying? It's made a massive difference. So again, I would say to all of you, if you're on that stuff and you want to move forward in this last year that we have, you want to consider letting go of that, letting it go, and come back to life again and crack on, because you will. It just makes it so much easier. Everything's just, it's there. It stays in your mind. You don't start on one thing, get onto another, and you forgot what you were just doing. It's all there, and it just stays, and it really does make a huge. Yeah. So right. Who's joined? And let's have a look. Debbie says good evening. Good evening, Debs. June, good evening, Sean. And chat, evening, June. Space Hopper Mark, rather. How do to you. Paul Sefton, good evening, Sean. Good evening, Paul. And Slipknot says, alright, Sean, Jackie, everyone. Alright, Slipknot, how are you doing? Of Rochdale says Space Hopper Mark. Laurence of Rochdale. He's a dark fella, that fella. Oh, honestly, if you knew what I knew, and we will discuss it, and I think I've mentioned it before. PY Music says, evening all. Good evening to you, Paul. John M, good evening, Sean from Cork. Good evening to you, sir. Don't like what's going on over there in good old Ireland. It's not good. I hope people are starting to come together, and because they're flooding you guys big time. It's not good. So good evening to you, John. June says Galloway the communist. Well, that's not the worst of this fella, because this fella. Well, we'll get into it anyway. We'll get into that. Cos1973 says emojis with gigs on. Hello, Cos. Untitled. Hello, Sean and followers. Hello to you. Untitled. Lewis says hello, Sean. Hello, Lewis. How are you doing? Untitled says, live in the mix last Saturday stream, you mentioned the interaction of the registrar, all new reminder. Yep, I hope that covers it, because that's basically where we're at in relation to that. But let me tell you now, the shit bricks. They're shit bricks. Let me be quite honest with you. I did mention to them, to try and calm them down, that I were not going to hold them liable, I was going to own Joanne Miller. But, of course, it has to be those, because they were the ones that blocked it, so we'll see where that moves to as we move. So, Drew says, Sean, you forgot last week about the Undertakers you was going to say at the end of last week's show. Covered, hopefully. Anthony says, evening, Sean, and the gang, hope you well. Good evening to you, Anthony. I'm very well, thank you very much. Just skint, as usual. Drew says, not bothering with the funerals, I'm doing pew cremation, 1200 all in, job done. Well, you might be surprised. I don't think you'll get it for that. Everybody has a charge. Everything has a charge. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, I'll tell you a very interesting thing, because, of course, the guy in question that popped his clothes was a Catholic, so this was a Catholic mass. And it was a black priest, and the guy was absolutely awesome. And everybody in there absolutely loved the whole gig. It felt so lovely, so spiritual to send them off that way. And, you know, I've been to so many funerals. I mean, I did stop going a couple of years ago because I just thought, I'm not doing this. It has an effect I don't like. But I have to say, the last 2 funerals, of the son-in-law and then the one on Friday, just completely different. And I can only say it's because of the funeral directors and the entire thing that was just brilliant. What a great way to send off your loved one. And instead of everybody blubbering, everybody were like quite happy because you just knew you were doing the right thing. So it was really good. Mew says hello, Sean. Hello, Mew. Lewis, I'm not ignoring anybody if you're texting me and whatever. I just no credit, so I'm not ignoring anybody. I just thought you know that. Thoughts on King Crimson? Well, we'll get into that. We'll have a little gig on that because it's just so bizarre. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Let's be honest. And it's been what looks like a murder of a very nice guy, apparently. Again, we'll get into that. Stuart says, 3 weeks of the Devil's Lettuce now, feeling great. 3 weeks, well done, my friend. 3 weeks is the kicker, to be fair, but 4 weeks before it completely comes out your system. And I were a bit mixed up last week. I thought I were only 3 weeks, heading into 3 weeks. I were actually heading into the 4th because I forgot I missed a live stream. So I was getting to live stream, forgetting I've missed one. So I'm now into my 5th week. So Friday was the 4th week. I'm into the 5th, and all I can say is, yeah, it feels so much better. And I'm smoking fags, unfortunately. I didn't manage to pick that one up. But the lungs, believe it or not, feel so much better. Whereas I always thought it's the fags that are doing the lungs. Actually, I think the magic cabbage has a much greater effect on the lungs than we'd like to admit. Because, of course, when you're on it, every excuse in the world, you will blag yourself so that you don't have to let go of that stuff. So, well done, Stuart. Well done indeed, because it does change things somewhat. And I suppose you've all tried it before anyway, giving it up, but it's difficult. But like I said, you're applying knowledge to it now so that there's no confusion, there's no shock, you're not panicking and dwelling on, oh my God, why am I changing? You've got the 3 days where you've got the psychosis. Intense psychosis. As far as I've always been concerned, that's the female spirit, as it would appear, the bitch, trying to force you back on it. Her last gig is to screw up your sleep. But as I said, if you're not going to sleep one night, but you'll fall asleep about 6 o'clock. If you set your alarm for 9 o'clock, you'll get a couple of hours, which is good. Get up, exert yourself in that day. When you put your head on that pillow at that night, you're going to sleep like a baby. I mean, I have had times where it didn't do that. You know, it's got a bit out of order, but you've just got to keep at it. But if you can fix them 2 things in that first 3-4 days, you're on to a winner. And then, of course, it's reappraising yourself with the masculine energy. But if you're applying that knowledge that that's what's happening, you're not dwelling on it, you're not worried about it, you're happy that it's come back, you know that you've just got to deal with it and keep it balanced. But having that knowledge of what's happening, you don't dwell on it. This has been a totally different time than last time. As I said, I got to 7 weeks, this energy, and I thought, oh, the program with her, oh, I can't do this. Well, yeah, you can do it. You can do it because that's exactly who you are. The masculine energy's back. Love it again. Be it, accept it. And it won't accept nonsense, garbage, shit, or anything. Be happy about that and take that on. And don't think in any way, shape or form that you have to move back to this pussy bitch shit because the hip hop said so. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. Brilliant. I'm happy and I'm not going to change my way now. I'm not going to go back to it. But again, like I said, it's the taste. I've started chewing gum. So I use that bubblegum one, but what I do, I chew it up and then spit all the shit out because I know that's where all the crap is. Spit that out. And my jaw were killing me. Oh my God, I thought we were going to get lockjaw. But again, you know yourself, using your jaw, it helps your shape of your face. So I'm happy to use the chewing gum, and that, I think, maybe is what's helping me not want to taste the taste when I'm having a smoke. It's just brilliant. It's it's all good. Big E says, hey folks, better late than never. Hello Big E, how you doing, matey? What you said last week definitely helped. Brilliant. Good, because there's no shock, is there? If you apply all that knowledge to what's happening to you, it's not a shock, and you don't dwell on this masculine energy that comes flooding back, and you're thinking, oh, I'm not allowed to do that. Yes, you are. Take it on, bring it back to yourself, and accept it, and move with it, because it will put you right back to where you used to be, and you won't accept garbage from anything, and it's as simple as that. So, crack on. Brilliant, and I like it. So, I hope it worked and helped you. Right, let's have a look at what's going on in the world of the madness. Hopefully got it here. Just a reminder, there's no difference at all between ISIS and the Israel, i.e. the military side of things. They are exactly the same. They are controlled by the same, as is Hezbollah, as is Hamas, the Taliban, and everything else. They're all controlled. ISIS, ISIL, they're all controlled by the same thing. Now, E. Michael Jones is an interesting character. He says, this is an attempt to exonerate Jewish behaviour by making it a category of the mind which only exists in the minds of people who hate Jews. It also serves to distract everyone's attention from atrocious Jewish behaviour in Gaza. A complicated, subtle... Oh, done it again. Not giving it long enough. This is an interesting bit of data, just again, but Kennedy's drug death cult, it says here, and it's talking about, as I've said before, the Knights Hospitallers, or Order of St. John, today known as the Knights of Malta. They are the temples of the Hospitallers, the hospitals, remember that. New York, June the 1st, Sean Combs, Donald Trump, Jason Bin, and Lenny Kravitz, circa 2008. New York, photo by Jason Bin. Trump was very tied into all these hip-hop stars, and as we know now, P. Diddy, just another Epstein. Yeah, another Epstein, blackmailing folk. And there you go again. Melania Trump, Donald Trump, and P. Diddy again. There he is with Kimora Lee Simmons, Russell Simmons, and Andre Harrell in 2013. So Trump's always been hanging around P. Diddy. He was hanging around Epstein. What do we make of that? Now, this is interesting. You've got electric guest list include American rapper Eve to Princess Diana's niece, Lady Kitty Spencer, who wore cleavage-enhancing Tudor dress. Her property tycoon beau, Nicholas Baratieri, also wore traditional Elizabethan attire. I'm just trying to show again that the Spencer Churchill bloodline is so important. Oh, it looks like I've missed an image there, so I don't know what I've done. My apologies. But I have put this together today, to be fair. So I've probably rushed it slightly because I have a lot on. But that'll soon pass. So I've missed an image there. That's what's happening there. Just look at the blackness. Look at the blackness and meditate. Anthony says, refresh my memory. What's the best way to make a wee contribution to your efforts, enlightening us all? So if you go underneath the live stream, there's a Streamlabs link. If you hit that, it takes you straight to Streamlabs, because of course you can't do anything through YouTube because they've demonetized. And that sends it to PayPal for me. So thanks, Anthony. That would be greatly appreciated, because I have been on my ass for a little bit. Work slowly coming, which usually is at this time of year if I haven't got anything. Where's my images gone? Oh, that might be it. Okay, so it's done. Alright. So that was just to give you an insight into the fact that these rappers, now it's coming to light that P. Diddy is very much an Epstein character. That Aldo was very, very involved with these people back in his day. Now, this is just to remind everybody of white supremacy. And this is the lovely children of the East End in 1910. Nobody here gained from the empire. You were in the mines, in the pits, in the orphanages. Yeah, and then again, just trust the science, which is what the mantra was for quite a time, is the most anti-science statement ever, because questioning science is how you do science. Just to remind you that don't fall for the garbage anymore. Yeah. Real world implementations, communism and fascism, which is pretty much the mix that they're putting in through socialism and capitalism working together. There you get dictator rule, anti-democracy, anti-free speech, anti-individual government surveillance, all going on. And again, a reminder as to why this crap's going on in Israel. It's to further force immigrants into Europe. And you've got to get into the multipolar world, the map for that, because Africa and Europe are one block. And of course to dilute the Aryans, which is exactly what's going on. Now this is interesting, you might not know, but Angela Merkel, Dalia Grybauskaite, who's President of Lithuania, and Theresa May, who was the Prime Minister of the UK, unvoted of course, these three have grown up together in very dubious circumstances, because of course Merkel is said to be Hitler's child. Now, just back off the Arabian temple last week, clowns and harlequins and all that shit is very tied in to this Shriner Freemasonry coming out of Morocco. Now look at this. This is a signal used, and it's the Vulcan. And it's Tubal Cain, password of the Master Freemason. You've got Tommy Robinson there, see? Churchill and, is that Trudeau? Or Castro? Yeah. So you've got to see this. So Tommy Robinson is clearly a Mason. He's clearly a Mason. And that's showing him at 3rd degree, I think. Right, let's have a look at this ritual crap as it moves forward. All 4 senior members of the British royal family have suspended public engagements until further notice. But they're still getting paid. We're still paying them. They're still sucking the Dutchies dry. But they've decided to fuck off. For a bit. Odd fellows. Very big here. Very big in Bury and Manchester. Britain's royals used to obscure legal procedure to hide distant relatives' wills. One name on the original list released by the court was Leopold de Rothschild, Edward VII's close friend, suggesting his will was made secret in 1917. And so they obscure the wills so we never see what's going on. And a judge revealed identities of more than 30 in a case. Now, what's happened to Kate? Last seen in public at Christmas in service in Norfolk. I wonder if she's having a serious nervous breakdown at the thought of becoming a queen. There's something definitely array here, and I certainly don't believe for a second she's been hospitalised. Now, this is not a new image. Take a good look at that. That's King Juan Carlos of Spain with William in his knee. And remember when you fucked me on your yacht? He's your son. She really got me back for shagging Camilla the night before we were married. I better organise a car crash. There he is again, King Juan Carlos of Spain, the King of Jerusalem. That's one of his titles, with Fidel Castro. Juan Carlos of Bourbon of the Two Sicilies. Now, I've played you the Holy See Family's gig a few times. He's in it. This guy is a very, very important gig. These are his non-hereditary orders held by King Juan Carlos of Spain. Now, he's not the king anymore. He abdicated and put his son there. But when I looked into it, he's still holding the title King of Jerusalem. So if it is the case that William's his son, he were, born induced on June the 21st as a son king. Then look, you've got Schwab, William, and then you've got the former head of the Optimum Population Trust, Sir David Attenborough. He's a big shit, him. He was the head of the Optimum Population Trust. I'll put that under this video later. And throwback to when Billy Goat met Barbara Bush, son of Aleister Crowley. Now, why? If she's not involved, Spencer Churchill, and as I've said before, there is no evidence whatsoever that she's dead. Now let's get into this. Duke of Kent is considered to be the most powerful Freemason in England at the global level, and his son-in-law had worked for the company called Volton Capital Management. Now, his son-in-law is the guy that's been found dead in his outhouse with a shotgun at the side of him, but he's had head injuries. And Prince Michael of Kent is one of the highest-ranking global Freemasons, and his son-in-law has been found dead in mysterious circumstances, aged only 45. Now, from all accounts, this guy, the son-in-law, is a very nice guy. But he was shagging Pippa Middleton before he hooked up with the Duke of Kent's daughter. And there he is. Friends of Thomas Kingston and the husband of Lady Gabriella Kingston say they have been left perplexed by his sudden death at the weekend. And that he's a wonderful guy. What did he know and what was he going to do? Would be my thoughts at this stage. Thomas Kingston, the husband of Lady Gabriella Kingston, was found dead in an outbuilding of his parents' Cotswold home with catastrophic head injuries and a gun next to his body, a coroner's court heard. Now, that's not normal, is it? So I would guess this guy has learnt something he didn't know before, and they've got worried. Now, William cancelled his going to his godfather, Constantine of Greece, funeral. So in came the other gang. They went there. So there you've got Anne, and you've got Camilla. They went. You've got Beatrice, the strange one, and her hubby. Very odd, that one. We saw the video, didn't we, last week? So yeah, they went in his stead. So why would he do that? Why indeed? Well, if girl's having a breakdown, then you've got Fergie and Andrew. Now there's another image I've got where Fergie's looking really bad. It looks like Anne said something to her, and Fergie were looking extremely distraught. So I don't know what's going on there, and I can't find the image because, as I said, I put this together today. And back we go. This is just unheard of. All 4 senior members of the Rich Hall family suspended public engagement until further notice. But they're still milking us. They're still running the duchies. I think we should say, right, well, you don't get any money. We're not paying your sick pay. We're not paying your fucking sick pay. None of you are pregnant. You weren't pregnant before anyway, because you get falling out, so we know it's garbage. Why are we paying you? So if we were all males, we'd be going, yeah, we're not paying you, fuck off. But everybody's pussies and bitches today, aren't they? So they go, oh, we love you. So that's that, malarkey. The ritual continues. And I have to say, I'm as confused as anybody else. There's a lot of conspiracy stuff going on out there, but to be quite honest, I think it's just a bit too stupid. I think I know what they're up to, and we'll have a look at that in a little while. Now, let's just remind ourselves of Beatrice. Look at who were at her gig, her birthday party. Weinstein, Epstein, Maxwell. And there's the old Weinstein getting rocked off to jail because he was a pervert. You know, let's not forget this. This is who these kids grew up with. And, you know, the Maxwells grew up with the royals. And there she is. And her husband's David Clark. And that was at Art Gala 2012, which of course is a global paedophile ring. And they pushed forward the Academy agenda, which was to incorporate schools tied to Dutra, tied to Epstein. And they used to raise a lot of money. We don't get to hear much about what they're up to these days because I blew them out the water during 2008, 9 and 10. CEOs resigned, and we hunted the other ones down. They all kept resigning because we were on the back. So yeah, do not forget this stuff. This is what we're looking at. UK politics. 1.4 million people were granted visas here last year. That's your illegals. And remember, Suella Braverman, Crown Agent, but she's the one that's been given the task of telling you the truth because they have to tell you what's going on. So we're paying for all these guys to have luxurious houses, big cars, while our grandma and granddad are freezing. And she's back. Allowing assisted dying does not worsen end-of-life care, say MPs. What do you know? Well, let's see you on it, because you not need to go. So let's see all you MPs on this assisted dying because of what you've done in the last 3 years. And there she is, the Dame Esther Ranson. And here's another shit, because if you remember, like Robbie Williams, all of a sudden, Chris Evans, putting his oar in about Harry, all of a sudden got an £80 million deal, just like Robbie Williams did. So that's you joining them, and there's the money flow. Big money then, it changes from I'm earning a little bit of money to big money. Church of England tells parishes to set up race action plan put forward by pro Black Lives Matter's bishop. So you can see what's going on with Church of England, can't you? And of course, Charles isn't upholding the Church of England. He's only concerned himself with the Church of Scotland. Southern Water fined $330,000 after raw sewage escaped into Hampshire Stream. Discussed it before. I released 6 university studies about estrogen being put into the water, turning everything female. Sent it to my MP, Greg Pope. Jack Straw were in the background. Basically, when I outed it all, the MP resigned that day by refused to take on my rebuttal and resigned. Freedom of press in danger if United Arab Emirates Telegraph takeover goes ahead. Damn right. Damn right. But I was subscribed to this thing and they censored me when I suggested that people don't take the pension that they take in the matured trust. They censored it, so I got rid of my subscription. And this Zionist freak, the head of the armed forces, is in trouble for talking about raising a citizen army. As long as the citizen army includes all these immigrants, I'm not bothered. And they should be trained and equipped to fight, he said. He's in trouble. Britain rejects Macron's plan to send NATO troops to the Ukraine. Well, I don't know how that's going to work, because trust signs into PESCO, which means our military is under the European Union. So is that just wind and piss? And just to blag the Blighty boys, because of course, what EU says, EU gets. And UK Armed Forces head is secretly helping Ukraine with battle plans against Russia. Does that look like a Zionist face to you? Yes, it does. It does to me anyway. And there he is shaking hands with the little pussy actor. So a very strange image, a video of him playing with a young girl. There you go. Orsini, Cyril Orsini, another one on the All See gig. This guy, Orsini, very involved in the entertainment industry, massively so. You'll see him with every celebrity you can imagine. And there he is, with another crown puppet, Sadiq Khan. And the Home Secretary has told pro-Palestinian demonstrations to stop the irregular Gaza protests because they have made the point and are putting a huge pressure on policing. Well, I agree, ceasefire is required. However, you ain't going to interfere in these two belief systems and faiths that are going on over there in the Middle East. And now let's look at this. Rishi Sunak announces 72 million to fund security for Jewish communities. What about English communities? Can you see how I said last week, if you look at politics, it's all about Islam, Judaism, Gaza, Israel. Fuck off. This is England. And West End player tells white theatre goers they aren't welcome as it hosts all black audience now at Kit Harington Productions to protect ticket holders from the white gaze. Oh, there we go. And that were 28th Feb. Daily Mail. So what do you reckon to that? Is that racism? Fucking damn right it is. And historian Rafi Hadel Manku, Islamophobia is not racist. As with Christianity, Islam is not a race. The term is a threat to free speech as it conflates criticism of Islam with hatred of Muslims. And that's not, Islamophobia is a word created by fascists and used by cowards to manipulate morons. Absolutely. And here he is, Laurence of Rochdale. Anybody that uses a foreign flag to seek election as an enemy of our country, the fact that this will become more normal moving forward is a depressing insight into what our nation will look like moving forward. Sectarian, divided and radicalised. And there is one of the biggest shits ever to step foot in the north of England. The new Member of Parliament for Rochdale was the head of Hamas. Hamas means terror. Who recently said we should hold on to the victory that took place on October the 7th and build upon it. So they're claiming Hamas is a victory while getting annihilated. Yeah, there is the bastard. But he's a Crown agent, remember. That's what he is. Meet the candidate standing in Rochdale by-election, Laurence of Rochdale. I mean, there's been more grooming going on in Rochdale, more rape of kids. It's beyond belief, and he will cover it. He will cover it up like he covered everything up that went on in Bradford, which we'll discuss shortly. Board of Deputies of British Jews says MPs should be shunned as a pariah by all parliamentarians. George Galloway's Rochdale victory day. Dark day for Jewish community in this country. What about a dark fucking day for England? Have you seen all the rhetoric? Islam, Judaism, Gaza, Israel. Not impressed. Not having it, and I don't think you guys should have it either. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to get off your asses and start making the right noises in law. Forget protesting. Does nothing but aggravate everybody. And of course, for the New World Order, they have to have riots everywhere so they can implement the new system. And there's the bag lady once again. I thought she would die and I wanted to die. She's looking like she's changed her mind. But she wants you to die. She's changed her mind, but no, it's good for you. You must do it. Kill the creditor. Because remember, government has been funded since 1933 on everybody's dead trust. When you die, Crown keeps it, pays back the debit, but keeps the credit account, which is what they've built if you put your national insurance number into GEMS, which doesn't work anymore because they don't like us seeing it. Yeah? That credit account with the billions or millions in, depending on what you've done, is what funds government. And so everyone that's died since 1933 is funding government. So why are we paying tax? Why are you being fined? Why are you paying council tax? Business rates. The government's funded. It's the banks, is it not? Woo-hoo! So what's going on in the wider world? The bigger playpen? A group of ultra-conservative priests from Spain and Latin America have been forced to apologise for saying they wish the Pope would die as soon as possible. So, the real Catholics are not happy with this, are they? But of course, everybody's been programmed to hate Catholics, so nobody's taking note. Well, we're all Rome, whether we like it or not. There are no secret tribunals, no elite celebrities have been executed. So nobody's been executed, this bollocks from Q. Guantanamo Bay wasn't expanded to imprison the cabal. Quantum financial system is new world order. Voter ID equals digital ID. BRICS is Agenda 2030 goals. And support for G20 and BIS is all in the gig. Now look at here. Shock twist as Alexei Navalny died of a blood clot and wasn't murdered. Putin claims, he wasn't murdered by Putin, claims Ukraine's top spy. Well, what has everybody just taken in the last 3 years? And what is he doing? Now, this is what Muslims need to realise, because China is the gig. China's the new world order. For China, Islam is a mental illness that needs to be cured. China's relentless campaign to erase the identity of the Uyghurs continues as the world remains silent. And that's Al Jazeera. Yeah, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And they're all busy mates. Busy mates. Okay? Epstein had all the data he needed to screw them both. But he would never have done that because they're all in the club. And breaking, Democrats say Michelle Obama is favoured as Joe Biden replacement if he drops out. And that's from Donaldo. Look at that ugly fat face of a fella. You've got to look at this as it is, people. Yeah? You know, they're going, oh, well, yeah. That looks like Chewbacca. That's a big fella. Innit? Chewbacca. Yeah? You've got to see it as it is. They're blagging, taking the piss out of everybody. So we know it's a fella. Complete and utter lies. Look. Who's are them kids that they parade around with them? It's a fella that's garbage, pretending to be pregnant. Look at the state of it. Come on. Ooh. Because he came back in, behind the scenes, to continue his agenda. And there's the Muppet. Said to be the twin of the real Joe Biden. And I have to say, the more I look at the different photographs, the more I'm going to agree. And there he is, Barry Soretto, as a fleabag, gay as fuck, at university with his busy mates. Class of 1972. Huh? Where's Michael? I'm not seeing Michael, that's unusual. Look, the Cameroon, and the old bummer. Busy mates. Biggest launderer going, this fella. Foreign aid. That were his gig. Hiding nuclear secrets. That were Cameron's gig. Oh! Well, surprise. How many times have we seen this image? Abad Lubavitch. Not Torah Jews. Let's remember that. When you see these images, these are not Torah Jews. This is Abad Lubavitch. The Talmudists. The Kabbalists. And he loves the gates. Both of them. Gives them crosses. We love you, Billy. What you going to do for us now? We've given you a sparkling medal. Well, we know what he did. Don't we? And there's a list of what the shitbag did. You know, Mexican armed drug cartels, attacked whistleblowers, gave 160 billion to Iran terrorists, uranium to Russia, regime change in Ukraine, tried it in Egypt, blah blah blah. And people forget that Obama's been put up as the new Tutankhamun of the world. So is he? I'd say he's playing a big part in this anti-life system that they're bigging up. And we looked at a prince last week, did we not, as well? And back we go to the old Pope, where the priests of the Catholic Church are praying that he dies pretty rapid. So yeah, interesting. Now this is interesting stuff. Hanseatic League was a loose federation of initially German merchant guilds that dominated Baltic trade. It had its own legal system and kept its own army, just like the East Indies. And they were exempt from paying customs on tariffs and goods and other fees such as pontage, like the East Indies. 1157, the Hans convinced Henry II to exempt the merchants from paying tolls in London. So this is the gig that became the East India Companies. And there's just a reminder that back in 2018, Putin prayed for the rebuilding of the temple at Temple Mount, which means they have to get rid of the mosque. Remember, this year the second horse is coming and peace is going to be removed from the earth. And we can all see how that's playing out, can we not? You know, we can see it. The feigned disunity of the communist world promotes real disunity in the non-communist world. False alignments formed with third parties by each side against the other make it easier to achieve specific communist goals, such as the acquisition of advanced technology or the negation of arms control. Agreements for communist penetration of Arab and African states in westernised the military, political, economic and ideological threat from the world communism appears diminished. And that's Anatoly Golianism. So it's to appear diminished, and it's not. This is why Russia is important. For while the Zionists try to make the rest of the world believe that the national conscience of the Jew finds its satisfaction in the creation of a state of Israel, the Jews again slyly dupe the dumb goyim. It doesn't even enter their heads to build up a Jewish state in Palestine for the purpose of living there. All they want is central organisation for their international world swindle, endowed with its own sovereign rights and removed from the intervention of other states. A haven for convicted felons, because that's where most of the murderers came. All went there. They were all murderers, and they murdered and tortured British soldiers. And Allenby, the chief of, when they sent army over there in Palestine, demanded that they didn't let any more of these Russian psychopaths into Palestine. That's General Allenby. You've got to look into that stuff. You know, they tortured British soldiers. Brown shirts just gone, and today we've got the green shirts, have we not? And Schwab was screaming, and also the head of WHO, asking the kids to start to scream about how we're all destroying the planet. So they're doing the same. But today the green shirts are all climate change fruitcakes because they don't know no better, and mum's too busy trying to turn them into transgenders. Now, this is the old guard. Look at this. Tsar Nicholas, that's his uncle, the old guard. Old guard are always in control. The new guard or apparent kings are just the fronts. He would grow up with him. Look at the size of that fella. Look at the size of that sword. You're telling me he wouldn't do what he was told? Damn right he is. Look at the size of that fella. And that fella's killed more people with that sword and made sure that he watches. There is no difference between communism and socialism except in the means of achieving the same ultimate end. Communism proposes to enslave man by force, socialism by vote. It is merely the difference between murder and suicide. Well, what have we just seen in the last 3 years? Mass suicide. War, of course, is where it comes in on the murder. Ayn Rand. Yep. So that's just a little look at a mix of Russia and a little bit of chat from Adolf there. Because if you actually read a lot of his stuff, and I'm not promoting him, you'd be surprised at what he was saying. We know he was a Bolshevik agent. We know that now, but obviously the rhetoric that he used to actually get himself into power is what we'd all really want to hear. And there's Putin, and I can't remember who that bunch is. Why have I not? Usually I get it written on it, but I haven't done it with that one. But I think they're private security boys, actually, if I remember rightly. So it's before Ukraine. But obviously Putin's been building up a private mercenary force for quite a long time. And today, look at the same, Germany, back in World War II, that was the gig. And today, look what's got it. Same place, and now it has the Star of Remphan shining bright in Germany. Totally under the spell of Russia, or fully controlling Russia from Germany. Again, I failed to put a right on what that is, and I forgot. Oh, I know what that is. Those are the Muslims, the Grand Mufti that went and joined the Third Reich. And people forget this. This is where your Shriners come into it. Where you get your ISIS mindset, you know, your Hezbollah, your Hamas. And Putin's priest says nuclear weapons are divine providence. Okay, so that's where, as well as Chabad Lubavitch, there's your Bolshevik, so-called Orthodox Christian church in Russia. Totally Bolshevized, Marxized, Leninized, because of course they murdered all the Russians. And the secret behind Putin's love for Chabad, and that's 8 years ago. So it's not a secret, and this is coming off Chabad's own website. The secret behind Putin's love for Chabad, because he was brought up by, basically by a family of Chabad Lubavitch Talmudists. But then you look at Putin today, it doesn't look like the Putin of old. And there he is with Uncle Henry at St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. And people think that he's running on this opposing force to NATO. Absolute nonsense. This is just how they're going to kill off the Aryan race, the males. That's the plan. And that's how it's going to be going if our soldiers don't wake the fuck up. Israel and Iran both set to join Russia-led free trade zone. And this is 2019. After 2 rounds of negotiations, Jerusalem close to agreement with the Eurasian Economic Union. Separately, Tehran also set to sign the deal in the near future. So this war that they're kicking off is all about just killing and enslaving. But Muslims, you need to wake up. Capitalism and communism synthesis. Communitarian movement. And this guy on the left started this communitarian movement, which is a massive part of this Israeli move into everything Western, China, India, etc. Communitarian movement. How many of you heard of that? And back we go to the Hanseatic League. Hanseatic League, of course, was the Teutonic Knights. Became known as the Prussians after they took over Prussia. And it's all the knightly orders mix in with this. This is your East India Company, your Levant, your Africa Company, Virginia Company, all these big operations that have basically colonised the entire world. There he is. Why did he not like his nose? One wonders. What's crack? He didn't like his nose, so he had it changed. I'll say. Didn't want anybody to know something. A deception. Now he's running Argentina. And this is just, what he's done is he's amended some 300 regulations by emergency decree, dropped laws that regulate Argentina's rental market and supermarket supplies, which has resulted in food and rent becoming unaffordable for many. Devalued Argentina's currency, slashed state subsidies for fuel, removed restrictions on privatisation. There you go. We want them back. Argentina declares plan to recover the Falkland Islands, and this is last week. So he's not giving up. But he's converted to Judaism, and of course the Jews are our best friend. But of course they're going to stir it all up again, because they're not Jews, not Torah Jews, they are Talmudists. Argentinian President latest broadside at woke culture is a diversion from economic wars, claim opponents. So he's moving against the woke culture. He bans Marxist gender-neutral language in government documents, but he's sucking the shit out of the arse of the Talmudists. And there we go, Geert, the superhero over there in Holland. We stand with Israel. Everybody seems to be standing with either Israel or Islam. What's happened to the Aryan Christians? We're not getting mentioned. You're all fast asleep. You've all just been jabbed up. Easy, innit? How easy it is to annihilate a race when the race itself is retarded. Wake the fuck up, people. Get off all your drugs, whatever they are, legal or illegal, and remember what your ancestors built for you, because they're rolling in the graves. Right, so just, go back to this, what's going on in China, okay? They've demolished 1,500 plus mosques in China, right? So, if we're looking into the future, we're looking into the game of the elitists, that all these orders that everybody is becoming aware of, that are building this system. The future, if you want a glimpse, is you have to look at what's happening in China. Now, I don't believe that the ships have sailed fully from the west into the east, because they're very aware, and Xi especially, that just one cock up in China and the billions of Chinese will revolt. That will be the end of the New World Order. And the elites are aware of this, and the elites are not stupid. So I don't believe they've actually moved the entire gig to the east, in case that takes place. Because if it did, and they'd moved everything over there, not only would the gig be over, they'd be dead. They'd be hunted down like dogs. And as the ruling bloodline members said in those interviews that we did a couple of years ago, or looked at, these ruling bloodlines have been ruling for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They know all the gigs, they know all the crack, all the rebellions. They've got this off to a fine art. Now I think if you keep that in mind, people, then what we need to be doing by any means possible is agitating the Chinese to realise what's really going on. Because if revolution kicks off in China, it's game over. It's game over for the anti-life system, all the blags, all the bullshit, and the breakaway civilization that they're building in this new ark that they all want to sail off on. He's dead in the water. He's dead in the water. See, can you see the symbolism now of the ark? It doesn't even have to be a flood. They're building an ark made up of all the commercial statutes in the world, the admiralty, the maritime laws that serve them, oppress you, serve them. They're stealing your estates, your land right, moving it into this new iron system. There doesn't need to be a flood. It's symbolic. And that's the breakaway civilization. So all these dipsticks who think they're in, well, if you read the protocols, folks, clear. You're not in. You're only in until they've used you, until you've no longer any use. And you might have had the placebo, but you're going to get one down the line that's not going to be that placebo. And oh dear, it's purely sick. Into the Maltese temples you go, because that's where they collect the death. So you don't really want to be dying in hospital, folks, do you? Where's your soul going if you're in there? Well, obviously, if you're thick and you've not really performed right well while you've been alive, that's how Satan is collecting souls. Is it not? I'd say it is. So, what's the blag over here? The Oddfellas, yes. Very big up in the north. Very, very big, especially in Bury. You go around Bury and Manchester, there's Oddfellows temples everywhere. I did some reports on them 10 years ago. I've probably still got them somewhere, but yeah, very strange when we looked into them. Now, if you remember Peaky Blinders, it's only the first series that's any good, because it shows you how the elite, through Churchill, pulled in all these damaged soldiers and created an underworld. And the Oddfellas were involved in Peaky Blinders, so you get an insight into who these were. And they were Catholic. You know, they were Catholic priests, monks, probably Jesuits or whatever, but they were warrior kind of monks, weren't they? That were pulling all this together. Kate will be king, says Slipknot. You reckon? I think she's having a major fit. I don't think she can cope with this. It's just ridiculous. But I don't know. It's confusing, and I'm not going to start laying claim to this, to that. It's just confusing, and I can't make head and bloody tail of it, really. Debbie is laughing. I don't know what you're laughing at. That Slipknot. What is Slipknot saying? Etymology of scientific equals know that it is fiction. Well, it is until it solidifies itself in fact, innit? Physical fact. Where are we? June says, William and Kate have separated, so I hear. Well, let's be honest, there's so much garbage going on. And it's let's be honest, she did say in December that she weren't going to be back until Easter. So it's not really that surprising that she's not been around. She told us that in December. She was going in for a tummy op. Maybe he did get her rubbed off, really, and she wants it out. Get it out! It's a lizard! It's an alien. You know, like it should be expected to. Or maybe he did get her rubbed off, and it's burst out of her tits. Is that possible? It's possible. Oh, well, I mean, maybe facetious, of course, but. So, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. Ranson and Savile are connected. Of course they are. She set up Childline to filter out the accusations against elites. That's what it was set up for. And she set it up while she was doing that gig on telly. What were it called? Can't remember. David Schwimmer is white. 330,000. What a particular number. Oh, right, David Schwimmer is white. Is your name, my apologies. 330,000. What a particular number. Well, it's 33, isn't it? The notes count for nothing. They're not really a number in numerology. It's just to carry through to show you've done a cycle. And then your master numbers come into play. You know, everybody goes, oh, it's a master number, it's Masonic. Listen, I use master numbers if I'm doing stuff like that because it's a master number. You're calling in. Yeah. 2 is secondary to 7. Very important. So 7 and 2 reverse as well. You know, 72. It's all over the Bible. And 27, the magic number. Or 3 is the magic number, isn't it? But 27 really because it's 3. Breaks down to everything. Numerology is an extensive science. And I studied it years ago. But as I said, I wanted to get my mindset out of all that because whereas you think you're expanding your awareness, actually what you're doing is you're fixing yourself to these. Yeah, it's just shit. Profiler X. That's a Freemasonic grip by Galloway. Well, he doesn't even have to be a Mason, but he probably is. But he's a Crown agent. They all are. Every single one of them are Crown actors. They're all Crown agents. Working for the cabinet, and the cabinet is picked by the Privy Council because there is no office of king since 1649. It's been a blag. Subinfeudation is what they rebirthed to pretend that we were still fixed to feudalism because Cromwell removed the debt of feudalism for the people and then died. And his son was shit. He probably didn't die, he probably killed because his daddy's name, Monk, was the man. General George Monk. We want to come up against him. Stuart says Michael didn't even bother chopping it off. Well, you've got to understand something about how these elite, they laugh at you. They're laughing at everybody because there's. I know people don't think they're dumbed down because everybody you know is at the same game because you're getting your input from the TV. You're getting your input, or back in the day, from Mills and Boone. It's fantasy on fantasy on fantasy. Now look at the channels out there that give you fantasy. Hundreds of thousands of subscribers because people want fantasy. Now I'm in a bedroom, no fancy gadgets, nothing fancy. But what I'm giving you is reality. And most people don't want it because it's too real and there's no fun in it. Because there's no fun in this reality when you're breaking it down because we're We're in a bad place. We're in a terrible place. And people don't want to see it. It's called fear. And that's where they've got you. But they laugh at you. They're laughing. Everything they do. The onesies that they launched, they were laughing at you. Because you showed them that you were actually farm animals. It bolsters their idea that they're superior and that you have to be cooled. You've really got to start to understand that the people up there don't think like you. And I know this because I thought like them. And I probably do, in some respect. But whereas they look at you and look down on you, I've always worked on the idea that the strong protect the weak, not abuse them. Yeah, and business is that very thing. You are abusing, you are capitalising on somebody else. Which is why I haven't put all my efforts into business. Because so much of it, if you want to go from here to there, is deception. It's all deception so you can capitalise. Now, most people out there are happy to be capitalised. They don't really care because they don't really understand what's going on. But they look down on you and they think you're there to be abused. To the point we're at now where they think you're that pathetic, you have to be culled. And they don't just think it, ladies and gentlemen. They've carried it out. Come on, get a grip. Profiler X with Hania. Can you explain that, my old China? Stuart says, Michael didn't even... Oh, yeah, I've done that. Profiler X. Amatia Etzione. A.K.O. Werner Folk. You're bringing some interesting data to the table. Milikowski. Same name as Netanyahu, a.k.a. Milikowski. Well, isn't Netanyahu a Polish guy? What did he do? It was something pathetic. I can't remember. Stuart says, have you looked into the Oddfellows and the Orphan Train show? Yes. And I did a report on Tutoria. I can't remember exactly when. But it's at the top of Google. It's been on the top of the Google listings now since I put it up. Because I went through all the data I could find and presented my thoughts on it as well. And I put a lot of orphan videos up because there were quite a lot of them about then, the foundlings and mudflood. They've all gone. They've all been removed. So they don't want you looking into the orphan trains. But I had a lot, yeah. Well, look, and I've said this before, you've got Q talking, oh, it's all underground, all this. You're looking over there. And what you're not seeing is schools get 12 grand per referral of your child to social services. If the social services get the child into their custody, 50 grand's released. Now, what I know about how it works is, because they're making money off the taxpayer, is they'll keep that child for 6 weeks and they go, oh, he's in the wrong place, they need to go over here. Another 50 grand's released of your money. It's an industry and it's right in your face. Have you ever been to a family court? Have you seen the judges? They are pure evil. They are pure evil to the point you can see it in them. Now, if you're looking for David Icke's lizards, that's as close as you're going to get to it. Down here on the ground. And you take note of these family court judges. They are evil personified. I kid you not. So the elephant in the room is that all the child trafficking is going on right in your face. The schools, now they're corporatised, are pulling them in, labelling your children this, they're getting them off onto other corporate enterprises because they're saying they're special needs. It's all about making money off your offspring. And while mum is la land with foreskins in their lips, which means circumcised dicks, that's the protein they use when you're getting this Botox shit. You're not running around with foreskins in your lips. They're laughing at you. They're laughing at you. You're eating Cadbury's chocolate. It's full of aborted fetus stem cell shit. Because it's 300 times sweeter than sugar. They're laughing at you. You go to Supermarkets now, all the fruit and veg is sprayed with this shite. You go to, not Lidl, what's the other one? I forgot the other German one. The one that danced to every dance during the whole gig. Now you're getting strange stuff in your food. We really need to connect with these farmers while we've got this opportunity before the Crown sucks it up. So I'm on a Facebook page with our local boys. And I'm going to start taking part with that because it's important. If you want to get back to decent food, then you forget your supermarkets. You need to get back to these farmers. And you need to start to organise it so you're opening a shop and selling their produce, not this shit that comes from the supermarkets. Most of which is grown in Spain, in Africa. You know, Marks and Spencer's, most of its stuff were coming from Israel because it were quality. You get a grip, folks. You've got to, you know, the most important thing you can do now at this point is keep your immune system as healthy as you can. Because I've just been ill, as you know, and I'm convinced that the way that they're getting me is through these towers. I'm not having it any other way. The stuff I've studied way back in the day, the Sabrina stuff, which I've begun to start to understand, and then I put one on my face ache yesterday, the day before. Very interesting. Very interesting, because she's saying exactly what I said at the beginning of all this, that the virus is the TV and the talking heads, and it's a virus for your mind. And that's exactly what it is. They convince you all to shit yourself, sack yourself off your employment contracts, so that sign up a new one, so that they could then say, well, you're going to have to do this dance now if you want to keep your job. You did it all yourself. There's no point, and you can see these court cases going on now. You know, oh yeah, it's legal. Well, who are they blaming? The doctors. Well, rightly so. It was them that were shoving it down your neck. But can you see how they played this game? Money goes up, shit comes down. That's the pyramid. That's the pyramid. And we're all at the bottom. Remember that. We're at the bottom of the pyramid, so that where you've got the least is the most. Think of it in that terms. And as it goes up, there's less and less with more and more until you get to the top and they've got everything. And they're still not satisfied. Because they want to place the plonker on the top. Who is just a front. Where are we there? So yes, I've looked into the Oddfellows and the Orphan Trains. I might actually look up to the reports I did on the Oddfellows from like 10 years ago and put them up on the website. Chris Hart says, Bury's got 3 pyramids next to Town Hall. Has it? Well, I've not been to Bury for quite a while, but when I worked in Manchester a lot, I used sometimes, instead of going motorway, I'd go the scenic way, because I like going on top roads, and then you go through Bury. Yeah. So no, I haven't noticed that. When did they put them up? And Debbie says, that's life. It most certainly is. Michael Jr., Sean, do you ever do your music in 5 to 8 frequency? If you know how I can do that, let me know, because that's exactly what I want to do. I want to get right back to the solfeggio. From what I can gather so far, you have to retune all your gig. You have to retune your synths, you have to retune everything. Oh, I'm working on a new tune now. It's proper rock and roll. It's a groovy one. I thought, because you don't want to just keep listening to the same tune all the time when I put these big files up. So I'm working on a new tune. It's rock and roll. I love it. It's what a top beat. It's proper rocking. It's a drum beat that I play myself. It's really good. So when it becomes a tune, I'll put it up, and then you can see how I build it as well again, like I did before. So if you know how I can dig that, move on to solfeggio. That's exactly what I want to be doing. I want all my music to be on solfeggio, so that you get something from it. You know. So if you know anything about that, Michael, please send me all you've got. But from when I've looked at it, and I do look at it often, you have to retune everything. And I do believe you can retune the doors as well. So that would be... But it doesn't look like it's an easy gig. Where are we there? David says, that laugh, even more at the fact that those of us can see this stuff on the line by the majority who can't see or won't see. Okay, so if you're new to this, I've spoken about this kind of stuff, is timeline. So the last 3 years was a timeline. the first horse, okay, Apollyon, alright? That was the first horse to wake you up. Because remember, the apocalypse is not Armageddon. The apocalypse is the universe going, bang, wake up, you stupid. Yeah, that's what the horses are for. They're to wake you up. And then this second horse, which is on its way now, removes peace from the earth. Or at least a big portion of the earth, right? And we can see that now playing out. We can see now how that's going to play. Right? With all these immigrants, these lunatics. Who like to hit girls. They seem to hit girls and kids. Have you noticed? They're only hitting girls and kids. Getting the cock out at people's windows. Males, when you see this happening, well, you don't just, you break their legs and their arms so they can't do it again. That's England. You have to protect the land, the nation, and your females. And that's what you've got to do. Don't pussyfoot around. Militia mind. Militia is sanctioned by England. The Lord Lieutenants are up their ass. Forget them. They're the ones running the magistrates. So if you're dealing with magistrates, send a letter to him and say, hey, what the fuck's going on here, Mr. Starcourt? The Lord Lieutenants are running the magistrates' courts. Keep that in mind. Because if you're sending letters to magistrates or anybody, send one to him and say, what's going on here, Johnny come lately? Okay? And then get into liens. How you put liens on people's property. So what am I going to say? Oh, yeah. So the way I see it is these are timelines that you either get fixed to, because once you jump on it, you're fixed. Aren't you? Look at the first one. You're fixed to that. You're fixed. There's nothing you can do unless they find ways of getting rid of whatever it is they've done. Right? Now, parasites are a major problem that people fail to recognise. Again, have they done something there? Who knows? But that's a timeline. This here, Islam, Judaism, Israel, it's a timeline. Are you jumping on a side? If you do, you're going to be fixed to that timeline as it plays itself out because you're on a belief system, aren't you? And you fix yourself to it because you were stupid and you're still on beliefs instead of functioning correctly as a man. You're still a person running around believing all sorts of shit because it fits in with your character trait. And if you're a rapist, there's a faith for you to jump on because it sanctions it. If you're a murderer, it sanctions it. If you want to slave people, it sanctions it. So you're only picking out archetypes, calling it God, because it matches your character traits to perfection. You're not owning it yourself. You're blaming something else. It's, you look in history, and it's everybody's fault by anybody owning the gig. They don't own it. It's this God, it's that God. The angels maybe do it. It's that blah 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 blah. Get a grip. That's the garbage. That's the kingdom below the heart chakra. It's everybody's fault by yourself. Own it. Own your life. Take responsibility for it and change it because nobody else can. And this is what I'm getting at. So I look at what's going on in the Middle East. Alright? Me personally as a man, I know I cannot in any way, shape or form influence the Israelis or the Palestinians. It's impossible for me because one, you're trying to invade a faith that they hold dear. Who's going to listen? They're not going to listen to me. So I accept that. I acknowledge that that's beyond my power. So I would say to you, I know I can't affect what's going on in the Middle East. Okay? So I'm not jumping on that timeline. Yeah? My timeline is, this is England, I love her, and that's what I'm pushing forward and reminding people exists here, and that's what we should be supporting and pulling back into force. It's the only gig on the table for me. All this shenanigans is going on around me, but I'm not going to fix myself to a timeline. I will try now. Islam is the youngest religion. It's the youngest religion. I've studied so much history you won't believe. I've seen where the Jews have been picked up by the Talmudists. I've seen where the Christians have been picked up by the notes made by a fraudster, Cyril Schofield, in his notes on the Bible, and they've created the evangelicalism, or Zionism as they call it. So all the Christians that are into that have been blagged by that. Coming from the same force, the Talmudists. Now the Muslims are being shafted the same. And their jingle jangle is money. Walmart is military. ISA brothers work for Walmart. Walmart still have 30%. Walmart have just bought up Euro garages. So not only now do they control the ISA brothers' ASDA interest, they now own EG Group. 30%. Well, yeah. But not only that, it's not just 30%, is it? Because where is the ISA brothers buying all the stock? From Walmart. So Walmart have got 30% take, plus the ISA brothers, as fronts, are buying all the stock from Walmart. So Walmart, if you look at it as a profit margin, you're probably pulling 70%. And the ISA brothers are there to front it, to excite the Muslims. To think that God is giving them the power they've been promised. Look at what's happening in China. Islam has been classed as a mental illness. They're getting rid of it. You're being used here for a reason, for a purpose. They want you to overextend yourself beyond your own doctrine. And if you're not paying attention to what the Quran actually says, forget the hadiths and the Sirah, that's just commentaries. If the Sharia law isn't representative of the Quran, and you don't know that because you don't understand the Quran, because you've not studied it, and you depend on the imams who are tied into this money system, you can fear it. And just because you don't know it, doesn't matter. You see, ignorance is not an excuse, but no knowledge of is acceptable. But once you've been brought to that knowledge, then it's on you. And you are the youngest religion, and we can see what's happening. Now, I'm not going to carry on this trying to help you guys to see the game, because it'll come to a point where you'll get cross about it. So there's going to come a point where I'm just going to leave you to it, and I'm going to focus to my race, the Aryans. And that's coming because I can see that this racist side of what you find in the Hadith and such is just getting bigger and bigger. You know, the only reason I do it is because I know a lot of Muslims. And I know that Muslims in general are good people. They go to the mosque because they don't have a choice. Because if they don't go to the mosque, they're ostracised. Why? Because it's about money. Now, this is another point. So you say the word debt, right? And everybody all of a sudden says money. You think that money is the only means of debt in this world? No. In the West, when I was growing up in the 70s, the churches had all the power you could imagine. Everybody went to church. It was coming away slowly because of the 1960s, but in general terms, the churches were full. And the church peoples, the churchians, despised everybody that didn't go to church. Now that's a hatred. It shows they weren't picking up the love that came through the gospel. So probably the church weren't preaching it. So you were ostracised. You weren't part of the club. But as that club lessened, obviously, and people left the church because they could see it weren't really about love, it was about money and authority. The debt, because that fixation to the church that people had was a debt. They believed they owed a debt to this church, to this system. So they go every Sunday. They pretend they were Christians. That is a debt. You feel indebted to something. And you're doing that yourself. So the idea that debt in and of itself, it just revolves around money, is a nonsense. In fact, if you really get into it, debt and money is a very small percentage of how debt as an instrument is used by the elites. You feel indebted if you work for a company. Yeah? You feel indebted if you think you have to be part of a system. And for me, it's all about taking responsibility for your own. The more you take responsibility for your own life and everything that's going on in it, because if you're paying attention and you're taking responsibility, you're starting to see and understand where you're going wrong, and then you start to you move on the path to put it right on a personal level. Now, another point with this giving up this magic cabbage, and this is a very natural thing. It's not something I'm concocting. But as I look out in the world today, and I'm thinking, I'm sort of cutting off the ties to the empathy that I'd afford to certain subject matter. And it's a natural thing because it's a masculine energy. Because I'm recognising that it's actually a hubris for me to believe that I have any power or influence in that agenda that I would empathise with. It's a hubris kind of thing to think that you have that power. You don't. You don't have that power. Everybody is in charge of their own little bubble. And if you think you can influence others, then you're part of the elite because you've probably got power because you're employing a lot of people. You've got respect. And this is the most important thing. If you're joining a secret society, you're giving up that self-responsibility to the organisation. So if you're a Masonic or you're a Jesuit, you're not operating as man. You're giving up your self-responsibility, your dominion of self to something else. And this is why it's gone so tits up. Because people haven't recognised that. And once you do that, you're indebted. And with these secret societies, you're taking oaths. What does the Bible say about oaths? Do not take oaths, ever. It tells you that. It tells you that. It's just about how we think. We've been so programmed to think in certain ways that we don't see it in these terms anymore. And then we're lost because we're like, well, what's going on? But when you do start to take up this self-responsibility, you're not lost because you can see the mechanic of everything. You can see what's happening. And people that get to, well, you can see why. They can't see it. So the blame game, like it's going on now. And the elites are creating that arena for you to blame with these legal cases that are going on in relation to the last 3 years. Because it's going to lay squarely at the feet of the doctors, squarely at the feet of the nurses. But when you look at it properly, look at that when I got arrested back in 2020. Did you see that little cow clap that came along? With every copper sucking the shit out of its ass, waiting for it to say something. Yeah? Them are the people that you want to be looking for. Them are the people that you want to go out your way to find out where they live. The inspectors at the police level, all Noahide priests, operating for the Pope at the 21st degree, the Noahide judge, Scottish Rite, Freemason. That's where everything is shoving itself down into society. The inspectors are the ones you need to be looking for. Where do they live? Who are they? Because they're the players. They're the people that know exactly what they're doing. They're the ones that hate you. They're the goyim operating for a foreign force against their own. So by default, they're not balanced, are they? They're evil. Everybody else is just dancing because they don't know any different. But they know what they're doing. The executive in your councils, yeah, they know what they're doing. You've got to change the way you look at that. And if you're still at the blame game, then start looking at what the elites want you to see to blame and look for what is really to blame. I've watched these auditors now for a few years. And at first, nobody seemed to, it was just, and then all of a sudden they started to realise what was going on. The police didn't like anybody collecting the private number plates of the cars. Why? Because they know they're doing wrong. They know they're doing wrong. And they don't want you finding out where they live. They know everything about you. They know everything about your family, where you live, where they all live. They know they have access to all your financial stuff. But yet, you take a picture of the number plate and they'll have a mental breakdown. Because they're in deception and they know it. There's their fear. The only way out of this is to see where it's coming from. Not from the gig that the elite want you to see it as. You know what I'm saying? That you've got to change the whole game. And as I've said, I'm starting to realise more. I've always known this, but where I would place a bit of empathy, I'm not anymore, because there's nothing I can do to influence that person or that group or that thing. I've come out of local politics because it's just a waste of time. They're all as bad as each other because they're all as retarded as each other, and they've picked a side. So they're all in deception, they're all hiding something while running around exposing their opponent's deceptions. They're all hiding something. They've all got something to hide. George Galloway, what's he hiding? Listen, when he were in Bradford, under respect, blagging all the Muslims to love him, and they did, what he was covering was a mass influx of Afghanistan, Taliban, and also what we'd call, what do we call them? Collaborators. So all the people in Afghanistan that were collaborating with the military. That's what he were covering. The massive influx of that. Now, at the time, in them days, I had a lot of Muslim friends. We were proper friends. The religion weren't even involved in it. We were mates when we were together. And we both shared our cultural bits that we didn't know, so that they understood my culture and I understood their culture. And one young lad that used to come lived in Bradford, because his brother lived in Bradford, and his brother was pretty high up in the underworld. Okay? So this is the trust that we had as friends. There were no secrets. And at the time, what were going on is these Afghan warlords were coming into Bradford and killing all the drug dealers and taking over the networks. So they were killing the high-end drug dealers, right? And then making sure that the only doorway for heroin was Afghanistan. This is what George Galloway were covering, and this is what I was badgering him about on Twitter, on his Facebook. Everywhere he were, I'd stick it in. Let's have a debate. Wouldn't fucking come anywhere near me. Couldn't come anywhere near, because that's what he was fucking doing. And I were hating him on it. All over the shop. That's what George Galloway did. So what's he going to do in Rochdale? Well, it's not Taliban in Rochdale, is it? It's ISIS that they're pulling in now. The ISIS mindset. To encourage Muslims to overextend themselves beyond the doctrine of the Quran. Puts them as kafir. They want them rioting. They want them on the streets like they are. They want rioting because that's part of the New World Order. Look at what's going on in China. They're being eradicated. You have to act contrary to your own book in order what they're setting up in China can be carried out here because you've done it yourselves. Now, if you can't see that, you're below par. I, educated Western guy, I can see it. I presented such 10, 15 years ago, I'm not sure exactly when. It was picked up by the elders, the Muslim elders in Blackburn, and a very high level imam who I knew because I did quite a lot of work in Blackburn in the 70s and 80s because that's where all the grants were. Okay? They knew what I was saying because they knew what I was saying when they looked at the Quran properly, that's exactly what it was saying. So, like I said, Muslims, there's only so much I can keep doing to help you to see what the elites don't want you to see, so that you'll do what the elites want you to do. George Galloway is not your friend. Sadiq Khan is not your friend. All these imams that talk shit are not your friends. They're not your friends. You know, you're the youngest. The Torah Jews make a distinction between themselves and the Talmudists. The Catholics make a massive distinction between themselves and this evangelical alpha gig. But they're sidelined now because everybody's been trained to hate Rome. Well, the Western Rome was the Arian Christians. The East took over Rome since 1066, when the Angevins, or the Vikings, who operated for Byzantium as the Varangian Guard through the Silk Roads at the back end. Byzantium took over England. Byzantium took over Scotland. That's why we've got Eastern Rome running the show. And the first signs and recognition of that fact was the Reformation. That's when Arian Christians realised that Rome was being run by something else. That's what happened with the Reformation. Unfortunately, it got picked up by who? The moneylenders, the Venetians, East Indians, yeah? Bedazzled by it. That's how the Christians were fucked. And the same is happening to you Muslims now. You're the youngest religion, remember. Regardless of, you're the youngest religion. And you're the last to be shafted. And what I'm seeing I don't like. But they have to bring in all these Africans to kickstart it. The ISIS mindset. The ones that hate France, because it was a colonising nation in North Africa. You know, the Brits, when they went in, or let's say not the Brits, but the Empire when it went in there, were with the Arabs. It actually gave them something. The French didn't in the colonies, they just tortured them. That's why the crown had its easy way in with the Arabs and the oil. It were a different sort of colonisation, you might say. And you need to see this, guys, because you're falling foul of it rapid. But the end game, if you want to look at what the end game is for you, see what's happening in China. And it's written in your book. If you see the light, your system could become something good. Get rid of the war side. But if you fall foul of this, you will be wiped off the face of the earth, as is prophesied in your book. That's what I see when I studied it. Now, I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm not. And as I've said, I'm running out of things to say. I'm running out of banter to offer you guys, because I can see where it's going. I can see where it's going. And I'm English. Proud to be English. And I'm of the Aryan stock. And that's where my loyalty lies. Once I can see that you guys have gone beyond redemption. So, you know, it's on you guys. It's all on you. You've got to take responsibility for your own life just like everybody else has to. So that's that. Now, let me catch up with you fellas. Aldi, that's it. That's a right shitbag place, that, you know. Heck293 says Stuart. What's that? Profiler X. Yeah, Aldi. Thank you for that chance. Chad's one. Electrical Apocalypse. Rudolf Steiner. You really need. It's difficult because Sabrina goes like 100 miles an hour, and it's hard to work out. It all seems like one thing where she's talking about different abilities that this system has. But you only have to study the radar system and what happened in First World War. to understand what radiation does to the human. You only have to look at what happened in Wuhan. I gave you everything. February, March and April of 2020, I did everything on my website, and then I could start to see where it was going, and I just lost all interest because I knew I couldn't influence it anymore. So I stopped. Got me in trouble. You know, the internet at the place I work got knocked off, and I had police outside once I put up the Queen, and I showed that the speech that she gave was 3 months before it all kicked off. They were there, police, again, because I'd already taken her to court before. Alright, I used to get calls off detectives every time the Queen were coming up anywhere near the north. Detectives would ring me. If they couldn't get hold of me, they'd go and frighten my mother to death because I took the Queen to court. So when I did that at the beginning of the book script, once again, it were me, blah, blah, blah. There they were outside. And blacklisted the internet IP address. That IP address has been back up for 8 months. But obviously it weren't being used after that. That's the kind of stuff that happens in my world because of the level at which I can see their game. So back to what I said before. If you want fantasy, you'll go to the channels that have 4 million subscribers. I don't get many subscribers because I'm giving you reality, not fantasy. But I'm also telling you that you can't swoon yourself in fantasy. You need to take part, get on the game and act. And most people don't want to hear that. Unfortunate, but never mind. Again, I've disconnected. I don't have the urge anymore like I used to do. The drive like I used to have. And we can thank the first dose for that. Once I saw that, okay, I'm wrong. I can't influence all that. That's it. This is what I do now. This is all. But if you're interested, you'll get something. Lewis says, hey Sean, I donated last week or a week before. I would like to get on a one-to-one call. I could pay a flat fee for an hour. Let me know if you're available. Sure, Lewis, yeah. Life in the Mix, number 22 at yahoo.com. Just send me an email, my friend. Of course you can have a one-to-one. I do it with a lot of people. But not everybody, because some people are fruit bats. And most of them are intel as well. I get a lot of intel, but I'm pretty wised up to all them faggots now. I can see them. I can smell them, actually. I can smell their email before it comes. Or the call. Yeah, sure, Lewis, no problem. Debbie says, no, I mean Esther and Cyril Fletcher show was That's Live. That's Live, that's it. Yeah, that's it. It was actually a good gig, weren't it? But little did we know that the Ratson, what she were really all about, tied in with Maxwell. Because the Epstein network is really Maxwell's network. You've got to get a grip of that. Yeah, That's Life. That's what it was called. Cyril Fletcher, yeah. My God, yeah. God, that's going back. Is that 70s? Chris says, they've been there as long as I can remember. They were out old meeting ground for scrapping when we were kids. But they only got 3 sides. Don't know why. Google Maps, Pyramid Park. Okay. The Space Opera says, is there a link for Sean's website? Yeah. Can somebody give him a link? It's, if you just Google The Bridge, Life in the Mix, .info. That's it. I forgot my own bloody webs. Hang on. So we're going to go to the website now in a minute. I'll read you these and then we'll go to my website because I've 2 reports to show you. One in relation to what I think might be going on with this shenanigans with the fake royals, and then another one just to remind you of who Rishi Sunak is. Where are you? So I'll take you to the website in a bit. People will take the comfortable lie over the inconvenient truth, my experience. Of course, because it means, the truth means you have to do something, take responsibility. And that's the thing that people are just not prepared to do. And that's why this has gone so far. Anthony says, Amy Broad, do us a favour, check your inbox before checking out for the evening. Appreciate it. Okay. Anthony says, the mute pit. Sean, explain the word hubris for... Right. Hubris is... It's like... it's the uber self-twisted love. Believing that you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. So kings are made of it. CEOs are made of it. Grandmasters are made of it. Divine right is made of it. Yeah? Because when you're in contact with the real divine, you don't do a swank. You recognise how shit and little you are compared to the forces that exist out there that very few people ever get to witness. When you feel and experience them beautiful energies, you see what a piece of shit you are. So, and I mean I'm exaggerating, but you recognise that you are nothing. Nothing without that. There's no hubris to that. It's impossible. So the hubris is when you believe yourself to be the fucking big cheese dick. The almighty, uber fantastic and amazing. And that you have a right to shit on everybody else. That's hubris. It's like an ultimate self-centeredness, selfishness. And you've convinced yourself that you have a right to do that because some God said. Or some archetype that you've latched onto that tells you that's right. You know, these archetypes, everybody's got an archetype. And if you look at it that way, you can start analysing your own character and thinking, well, hang on a minute, why do I like that God that likes to do that and sanctions that? That's not really very good, is it? That's me! I'm liking that God because it's in sync with my shit. You know? That's the cleansing. That's what the mystery school did for me. And that's what it does for everybody, if you're looking. Won't that help there, Anthony? 2 weeks off the devil's lettuce after 40 years of almost daily use. Thanks, Sean. Gid, you are so welcome. And I'm so happy that people are picking it up for that because, yeah, it's just so much different. And you know, don't be worried about this masculine energy that comes back to you. Embrace it because that's who you are and it'll put you right back to where you're meant to be. Thanks for that, Gid. I remember that. She was awful. I'm reckon you're talking about That's Life there. TPR Liverpool. Yes, Mew, I'm done getting there. Sorry, I am getting there. Sean shares my born day and I found him on our exact born day. It's kind of on my bones to listen to his knowledge and humour. Good. Because it can get a bit... Not everybody likes my humour, I have to be honest. Mind you, I'm quite chilled sometimes, most of the time, but sometimes I can get a bit excited. Especially when I'm talking about the Aggie Shaggers, you know what I mean? Is Trine on? No, Trine's alright, she don't care. I don't think she's on. Profiler X, they need chaos or don't have chaos. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what these protests are about. It's exactly what this attacking the natives is about. But we have to be smarter than that. We have to be wise as serpents and as gentle as doves. However, when it comes to defending yourself and your kin and you've got to be prepared. That's why you need your masculine energy back, guys, because it's natural law, and let nobody tell you different. Turning the other cheek, it's a fancy idea, but when you're in hell, which is what's coming, that doesn't work. So, you know, although being a Scouser, the bar is set high. You know, I get on with Scousers so well, you won't believe it. You know, me and Scousers just get on. We always have. Wherever I go, if I'm with Scousers, like Cream, I used to go to Cream a lot. Just the odd girl now and again to get cocky and pretending they were like CID, and you're like, fuck off, you dog shite. But in general, I just get on with Scousers. No problem. Mew says, I kicked the cigarettes and Daily Green in 2018. Yeah, I've been able to do the fags. Although, smoking is another method that stops a lot of this radiation being able to... I can't remember exactly. But have a look at that video I put on my Facebook yesterday, Mew. Very interesting to watch. Just watch it. You don't have to watch it all in one, but she covers a lot of things I've already spoke about on my website about it, but quite a few other things as well. But I don't want to talk about it because obviously the bots are watching. Okay. Sean, I have not had a smoke since last week's show, Mike. Great stuff, man. Good. That's really good to hear that people are actually giving it a bash, because it's really good, so it makes it worthwhile. And makes it worthwhile me choosing to do that mad one the week before, just to show you what to be expecting. Because that's exactly what it does. It's no easy gig coming off that stuff. Michael says, Sean, can you point to your article where you mentioned not taking the pension and take the trust? I haven't created an article. I'm very careful, Michael, what I do with this, because if it gets into the wrong hands, always my impetus for me doing what I do, it's always, I've learned that, give. But when you start to study the law, you start to realise how sick and twisted these elites are, how sick and twisted the system is, and that how you've been lied to so bad all your life. But you also realise that the keys are also within that. We don't want the fruit bats getting them keys, do we? So I'm trying to work out how I'm going to do this. But I have a lot of law on my website, don't get me wrong, but it's just data to get you into the mindset, the ideas that are around it, the different jurisdictions. But I don't put anything on my website in relation to the stuff I've been learning in the last 3 years, just because of what I've said. If it gets into the wrong hands, it's not good for any of us. And we want our estates back, because our estates go way, way back into the mist of time on this land. So where are we? Are you SoundCloud with your music, Sean? I think I have got a SoundCloud, but I don't put anything on it. No, I don't. I'm pretty crap at at doing that. Promoting myself. I don't actually promote myself. I don't do it. But I am on SoundCloud. I'll pick up the links if you want and send them to you. I did actually have podcasts in America for a long time. And I had quite a lot of because I do some really rebellious music. I've got some that's really fucking proper, and I sing on it, you know what I'm saying? And I had 2 CDs where I'm mixing up desks and singing live. But that's like 2000 back then. And I had them up on this podcast. And I had over 300 music producers, record companies, radio stations from across the world, especially in America, all over that podcast, because of one particular tune that I had up there that were very, very rebellious. And maybe I'll play it on here at some point down the line. But I warn you, anyway. So I did have a massive, and then I told a Mason that I knew about that, and they took all the subscribers off it. So you have to be careful who I talk to, mate. You know what I'm saying? If I learned a long time ago, don't brag, because they'll use it against you. Anita says Aldi. Yep, Aldi, that's the one. Thanks, Anita. Mark says, definitely need to call you, Sean, the guy who has First Lien Crown Court. Okay, mate. Well, I have colleagues that are much more advanced in relation to how the lien system works. We all seem to do our own little bit, you know what I mean, and then pull it together. But the liens gig, once you learn that, it's very important. Also consider that the IRS are enforcers. Because, of course, the IRS are the global tax collector for this new system. So we're looking at that as well, how we use the IRS to enforce shit over here when our tits are not acting properly. Mark, they locked him up for 6 months. Who did he lock up? He locked somebody up for 6 months. Oh, for God's sake, man, I know many people that have been locked up with this. Tons of people. And they tried their damnedest to lock me up many times. Anthony says, Sean, appreciate the explanation, spot on. Thanks, Anthony. I'm glad it did the bill. Profile says, Children of Men movie tells what's coming to the British Isles. Children of Men. Oh, let me write that down. So I don't really watch movies. I watch Last Kingdom a lot because It helps me remind me what I'm doing, which is trying to bridge Protestants and Catholics. Because neither of them would accept me as valid because I'm just too rebellious. So I always, sometimes if I'm getting a bit out of kilter, I'll watch it to remind me that that's the position I'm treading. It's trying to bridge back, to pull back the Aryan race together. Yeah, so Last Kingdom I watched quite a lot. Suits as well I watched in the last couple of years, and that taught me so much. It put the icing on the cake in relation to how this game works in law. Children, were I born in 72? No, 67. 13. Oh, my number's 13 and 31, always. No, 67, geezer. Proper year. Mike's joined late tonight, no problem, Mike. I often come off for a few days. Yeah, but it's get right off it to really. I mean, like I said, I'm into my 5th week now, and the mist and the chatter, it's not even there. It's not even there. There's nothing. It's like, okay, but this time I'm quite liking it because I've applied, and the final one, applying the knowledge of to what's actually happening with this energy coming back, the masculine energy. Because, you've been programmed to think, oh, it's not allowed, it's toxic, girl said it, mum said it, wife said it. It's like, no, embrace it. Embrace it. So I control it rather than the other way around. Well, I think we all say that, Mike. We all say that, don't we? We have a lot of ways of fooling ourselves to keep us on it, because we do enjoy it, let's be honest. God says, I watched the stream you done a couple of weeks ago. I didn't notice anything different, to be honest. We're a bit aggressive. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean there. I do. There were 2 parts of it when I watched it back that I thought, oh. But the rest of it, I thought, yeah, that's exactly what I meant. And I still mean it, TPI, Mew, shall I email Sean with my email for you? Is that the easiest way? No problem. Cos97 is right. Me neither. He's cool as fuck. Sic Parvis Magna, found you researching UKC. Current thoughts. UK column? I know Brian. Brian was set up to capture the middle class, the English middle class, and he's done very well. Now, this is another thing, and I'll say it again. And this is why I don't like attacking other people, researchers and such, unless they piss me off, and then I don't give a shit. But it's always worth watching these people, because in order to get your attention, they have to give you 80% of truth. And it's what they don't talk about, or they just take you off that kilter there, or sell you some lies. Once you can discern that, you can only benefit from watching. Like I've followed Alex Jones on my Twitter. Now I haven't watched Alex Jones since he kicked me off all his gig back in about 2008 or 9 or something like that. Never watched him because I weren't interested. I haven't watched David Icke for years, although I'm now following him because I'm interested. I enjoyed watching him with Alex Jones because kudos to the guy. Whether you like what he says or not, he weren't going for the dream team. And he's still solid there. And so hopefully he means it. I don't know, but I hope he means it. So I'm following him. So now I'm catching what he's saying. And I'm catching Alex Jones because he's coming up on my Twitter. Fucking hell, man. What Alex Jones is up to now. It's so transparent to me. It's transparent to Amazing Polly. Archie's brutal. We can see through these people because we've been doing it a long time. A long, long time. And, yeah, I mean, there probably will come a time down the line where I'll have a gig and we'll go through and I'll tell you exactly what's going on. But he's trying to pull in anybody that has got an influence so that he can be the cock rock. But that's Alex Jones, isn't it? But like I said, you will learn something. So even UK Colm and Brian, they talk about things that matter. They do. They're just not talking about things that will change things. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to use your own discernment with these people. But I wouldn't suggest for a minute that you don't watch them. because you will learn something. Hotmail, yep, okay. Space here. Children of the Men is an odyssey. Okay, excellent. I'm going to watch that. Oh, I didn't even write it all fully down. Children of what? Of Men. Children. Okay, thanks for that. Or Ben Google Movie. It's Janie. I thought you were 52. You must be doing something right. Well, I am. I don't eat the shit. You know, or minimise it at least anyway. Keep fit. I have a mountain bike. I have had to arm in my lungs though. I mean, because I've been smoking since I was 9. So when I started cycling, in 2015, my lungs were in bits. I used to have to get off. I had to cycle for a bit and then I couldn't breathe. I'd have to get off. And I didn't know whether I wanted to shit, piss, cry, scream. And it'd take me 2 minutes to come round. But then after a while, what happened? Where my lungs just went and it expanded. And it was like, whoa! But I have given up twice in all the years I've smoked. Once for 12 months when I got that off. And then again, maybe 5 years ago, for 17 months. And let me tell you now, it doesn't matter how long you've been smoking. If you give your lungs a year or more off, they heal. They heal. And then if you blow your... Now, this is my attitude. When I was cycling and I was having trouble with the lungs, I would say to them, you will either fucking do what I said or you'll kill me. And that was my attitude. Boop, 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 boop. And they did what I said. And they expand. And now, I'm right. I'm not as fit as these young ones. But the last time I did Gisborne Forest, there were 3 of us. And obviously they were way younger than me. And I just go at my pace, mate. I'm not racing anybody. And the 2 lads that liked to race, they were off. And they'd wait for me and I'd catch up. But at the end of the 4-hour gig, one of the younger lads were nearly collapsing. And I mean collapsing. And I could have gone again. I could have done it again. So it is all about how you look after your body. You know, and I drink that stuff. I know everybody cries their eyeballs out about it, but it's better than the shit that comes out the tap. Okay, mate, if it gets hot and warm, that bottle, you're going to get some BPA in it. Unless I'm going to have to repopulate the planet. I really don't give a shit if it sterilises me. I couldn't care less. I've done my gig. I've got 4 offspring. I don't really want it anymore. Unless I have to repopulate the earth, you know what I'm saying, with the Aryan race. Then fine, I'll be happy to do that. As long as you're fit. Where are we? You have it all spot on, mate, says Mike. Thanks for that. David Icke and James Dellingpole was a difficult watch. That Dellingpole came on Telegraph when I were on it back in the day, when the Telegraph people really fucking backed me and helped me out. And he were a complete toss bag then. I could see you were a shill. What's your opinion on the trial of Richard D. Hall? It's the same with what they did with Alex Jones with Sandy Hook. So all these false flags that they do, everybody jumped on it and pulled them to pieces. They don't like that because they spent a lot of money doing that. And if you notice, they haven't done any for quite a long time. Yeah? Same at Manchester Arena. It was as fake as you could believe. I watched it all, looked at it at the time, everything. The firefighters weren't allowed in, the police weren't allowed in. I can't remember the ins and outs of it, but I did a couple of reports about a bedding and just put little bits in just for anybody who's awake, they could pick it up. But they don't like that people, we were just ripping them to pieces. So they did Alex Jones to scare everybody to death. Don't talk about these false flags. And it's exactly the same with this guy. Now, I don't know whether he's playing for it or not. I'm not suggesting that he is a shill. I don't know enough about him, to be fair. But they're trying to make an example of him, of course. So I don't know. I am aware of it, and I have a friend who keeps me informed, sends me stuff all the time about what's happening. But the days of being excited about that kind of stuff are long gone. I did a lot more back in the day. You know, I was at it 24/7. It were quite intense, so I don't do that anymore. well, naive, is it? But, it's named Evian after a mountain range. And I think the mountain range were named, so like thousands of years ago. Were they prepping it then so that they could tell us we were naive? Just use your loaf a little bit. If you to taste this compared to the other shit, it's delicious. It's absolutely awesome stuff. There's a German one as well, but I can't get hold of it. But it's better than drinking the tap water in it. And a lot of the bottled water that you get everywhere has got fluoride in it. It's got all sorts of shit in it. What's your opinion on? Oh, yeah. The Holly Gregg case, Ed, I found Brian Graham. Well, that's where me and Brian fell out, and I wrote a report about that, which is still on my website. I think it's called the Northern Ireland Intel Club or something like that. No, it pissed me off because I was still friends with him then, and I've been watching this Holly Gregg going on, and I'm thinking to myself, the only fucking child abuse going on here is these fuckers keep putting her up in front of everybody. So I rang him and I said, look, Brian, I said, I can't accept this Holly Gregg stuff. I said, show me the evidence you've got about this. I said, oh, show me, I need to see the evidence that you're saying you've got. And he said, I've seen it, Sean. I said, it's not good enough, Brian. I need to see it myself. Won't give it me. So that were it then. I thought, right, I've had enough, and I wrote a report of what I knew about the background of UK column. I included David Icke as well, because I'd met a guy called Justin Walker at the time. And anyway, it's on a report. Northern Ireland Intel Crew, I think I've called it. Northern Ireland Intel. I'll put it up under this after anyway. But I'm sort of giving Icke the benefit of the doubt at the minute, because the only beef I really have with David Icke is the fact that he's telling everybody that I'm a fucking lizard. And I don't like that, because I've tried. I'm not tried, guys. I've tried my best to shapeshift. And it doesn't work. I can't do it. If I could shapeshift, I'd be right. Then I'd be okay. But I can't do it. So I can't accept that I'm a lizard. I was 11, well done for trying. Celtic salt and water don't even change, mate. Yep. On distill, well, as long as you're adding salt, because it does remove the electricity gig in your body. Slipknot says, signs and symbols rule the world, not words or laws. They always reveal themselves, absolutely. And we need to learn them. Nice one, Deb. I will have a read, thanks. Right, now, I'm just going to put this together. We'll not do the Rishi Sunak. I'll keep that up for next week. But I just want you to have a look at this, because I think this is what they're up to. King Charles III approves changes to royal assent procedure. Alright? It says King Charles has approved changes to the way legislation is granted royal assent in the Bailiwick of Guernsey. It means the introduction of legislation can be expedited through the granting of royal assent by His Excellency the Lieutenant Governor. The new process will take effect from the 29th of February, the state of Guernsey said. The state said the new procedure should result in faster processing of primary legislation. And there's a shitbag. Prior to this change, all Bailiwick primary legislation, known as Project de Loi, were approved by the Sovereign, providing assent for acting through the Privy Council. The modified process will enable the ratification of Bailiwick projects by His Excellency the Lieutenant Governor, Lieutenant General Richard Critwell, in the Bailiwick unless the project is specifically reserved for His Majesty the King's assent, which could include projects involving defence or the royal prerogative. Years of work. The state said there would be no change to how primary legislation was debated or approved by the Bailiwick Parliaments, nor to the registration of legislation in the royal court. It said the change underlined the Bailiwick's domestic legislative autonomy and developing international identity. The President of the Policy and Resources Committee, Deputy Lyndon Trott, said he was pleased this change had now been agreed after years of work. He said this process is not only of practical importance, it also reflects our identity as a jurisdiction through our direct relationship with the Crown, distinct from the UK. So like the Isle of Man, these little offshore gigs, they're under the sovereign, but they're not under the government. Now, are they stepping back in the shadows and handing to the entire Commonwealth this ability? If that's so, they are now dismantling everything tied to England. That's your common law, it's your courts, your parliaments, and everything. So I think this bastard, this shitbag here, is dismantling our common law system across the entire Aryan nations. That's what I think they're doing. In truth, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. French Sea Salt. Getting your trust EIN is just a start. Oh yeah, there's so much more. It's not about just these things. So I can give you shitloads of information, tons of it, but you wouldn't have the mindset to make sense of it. Which is why so many people in this gig, you'll study this and then think you've found it and off you go. But you're not. You're just running off on a dead-end gig. Because until you can see what you need to see, you won't understand it. That is what I've learned. No matter how much information you take on. And that is very, very important that people grasp. Which is why I've said that as this moves forward, I'll be looking to organise it so I can teach this to the right people. Unfortunately, I'll have to decide that for myself. You know, I've done this for so long, helping folk, and it just doesn't work because they're not grasping the gig. And Martin from Glasgow says, groom of the stool. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I shall bid you farewell. 2 hours and 19. I've kept you a long time tonight. Sorry about that. Looks like you're enjoying it, so that's got to be good. Well, we're going to play another tune on another bag of stuff about the Crown, but we'll save that for next week because it's not a big deal, and I might have a new tune for you to have a listen to. I like it. It's going to turn out somewhat good, this one, I think. If I can get the right sample speeches to it, it might just turn out pretty bloody groovy. Why is Thames water so bad? I know they are consistently dumping. It's a closed system. So what comes out your arse goes in the toilet, they clean it chemically, and it comes back to your tap. Which is exactly what they want to do everywhere. We're alright up here in North, we still get our water from Lake Districts and that, so we're pretty lucky, but they still fluoridate. No, I don't think they fluoridate it yet, but they've got plenty of chlorine in, and no doubt they've got all sorts of other nasty shit in it. And that's pretty much it for tonight, guys. Thank you very much for joining, taking part. I hope you've gained something. And I'm so happy that some of you have come off that shelf and are seeing the benefits from it right away. Hey! Well, chaps, thanks again. And I have to say, till the next time. Yeah, you can share me details, bud.
Right, good.